Everyone. You recall that last month it was reported that there were a couple of sexual assaults that occurred in the city of Niagara Falls, and some information had gotten out relative to those two investigations. And one of the things that I say over and over again when asked about how do you stop crime, I can simply say that, and they've all heard this, all of the officers that are collected here, the superintendent of police I'm joined by, as well as other members of the police administration, more importantly, the men and women who worked hard on this case. If the Niagara Falls Police Department is aware that a crime is going to occur, they'll stop the crime from occurring. But what's also, I think, rewarding with regard to this department is that also once a crime has committed, they will work tirelessly until they bring somebody to justice for having committed that crime. And again, I must say that I am deeply impressed with the method with which this department went about making sure that this case also did not go unsolved. I, of course, am proud always of the work that our Niagara Falls Police Department does, and especially in this case, the way they were able to work tirelessly to make sure that, again, we were able to solve this case. So with that, I'm going to ask the Superintendent of Police, John Faso, to please address all of you.
Good morning. I'm going to make this short, and I'll turn it over to Captain Conti. I could tell you that 29 years in law enforcement, most of that time as a detective, I followed this case, and I was briefed throughout this case, and I was nothing short of amazed at the work that these gentlemen and lady behind me put into this case. They deserve kudos for their hard work, their dedication, and with that, I will turn it over to Captain Conti.
Thanks, Chief. I'm going to go through and kind of go through what we are working off of, and then I will give you the information regarding the person that we have in custody. September 19th, approximately 11:30 p.m. near the Pine Plaza, Niagara Falls Boulevard and Military Road in the city of Niagara Falls, the 31-year-old female was confronted in the parking lot by an armed suspect with a handgun. That suspect forced her to go behind a business in the plaza where he sexually assaulted the victim before fleeing towards Military Road. The description that the victim provided at that time was a black male with a light complexion, approximately 5'8", with a bald head. Yesterday morning, after consultation with the Niagara County District Attorney's Office, it was determined that we had obtained sufficient evidence to charge a suspect for the sexual assault that occurred that I just mentioned on September 19th. While conducting surveillance on the 600 block of 24th Street, warrant officers Jason Haug and Josh Miller located the suspect. As they took him into custody, they determined that the suspect was actually armed with a fully loaded 9mm handgun on the person. That suspect was transported to police headquarters here at 1925 Main Street for processing. That suspect is identified as 18-year-old Niagara Falls resident Alexander J. Bryant. The last name Bryant is spelled B-R-Y-A-N-T. I have a picture with his name on it that I can provide for you at the conclusion. Mr. Bryant was arraigned this morning in Niagara Falls City Court. He is charged with one count of rape in the first degree regarding the incident that happened on the 19th of September. He's also charged with one count of criminal possession of a weapon second degree, which is in regard to the weapon that was found on him yesterday by officers Haug and Miller. He pled not guilty, was remanded to Niagara County Jail. His next court appearance will be scheduled for Monday here for a speedy hearing. Just a quick note, I want to give credit where credit is due. The arrest of this, the culmination of the arrest is a lot of hard work by a lot of different agencies, including our own. But I want to make sure everybody's notified of this. The Criminal Investigation Division, the Crime Scene Unit, Niagara County Sheriff's Office Forensic Lab, and our partners at the Niagara County District Attorney's Office. We got to this point for the arrest using new technology and techniques, but more importantly is good old-fashioned police work and attention to detail. An example of that is going back as far as the investigation goes. Officers received a tip of a suspicious person. Patrol officer responded to investigate, and as he was talking to several people at the scene, he had his good thinking, his body camera activated. When he was speaking to these people, he didn't realize at the time, but he was also encountering our eventual suspect. As he was leaving the residence, a suspect happened to mention a phrase in passing to the officer as he left. Moving forward, Detective Dan Banis, who had reviewed the body camera video, was present when they re-interviewed the victim a few days later. She happened to mention that during the course of the assault, the suspect mentioned the exact same phrase. That attention to detail directed us to that person. There's a suspect. As we started looking further into this person, more and more things kind of fell into order, and we continued our investigation until we got to the point we can make the arrest. I want to take this opportunity to just briefly mention some of the detectives and officers that had a key hand in this. First, Lieutenant Troy Earp, Officer Haugen Miller, Detective Dan Banis, Detective Dan Haney, who can't be here today because he's at the court, Detective Steve Kerfoot, Detective Sean Bielik, Detective Kevin Henderson, Detective Allie LaRue, and Detective Ken Redmond. I'm going to preface the next because I know where your questions are going. While the initial press release mentioned a second sexual assault that occurred October 6th, shortly before 8 p.m. in the Tops parking lot down here at Portage Road, at this point I can only specifically discuss details regarding the charges that Mr. Bryant is charged with at this point. The other sexual assault is under investigation. Like I said, we're working very closely with the Niagara County District Attorney's Office, and that will continue to move forward, but at this point I can only speak specifically to the charges that he has before him that he's been charged with.
So the question is, so September there was a sex assault case and then October 6th. Why did we not find out about either of these until 2 days later with Facebook posts?
When we had the initial report, detectives were automatically working on that. We dedicated resources to that. We don't issue press releases for anything and everything because we've learned over the years doing many investigations, you put too many press releases out, the county gets lost in the noise. When we found the second incident that we felt was very similar to it, we feared that there may be somebody perpetrating both these crimes, and that's when we felt it was necessary to put that information out and get out to the public for their safety.
Don't you think it could have been helpful, though, letting us know when the first one happened so that we could let the public, so that the potential person who's going around doing this, maybe it could have prevented a second attack?
I think that's speculation on your part. I don't think that really has anything to do with it. We have it's happened at two different points in the city, two different times of the day. I don't know that putting that out in the press release would have changed anything.
It's still a very serious.
Do you have questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Okay.
very serious crime, and as the media, we want to alert the public that something like this is going on.
Okay.
Any prior for Mr. Bryant?
He has no criminal record here at Niagara Falls.
Okay. What did he say? What was the phrase?
I can't. I'm sure it'd be very interesting to you, but I can't.
It is very interesting, that's why I'm asking.
Okay, but that's part of the investigation, and I can't really say.
But he said something, that is interesting, I mean, that's almost like a TV show. He was talking to an officer, yeah, and said something in passing that,
Yeah, the Detective Banis actually picked up on.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. They said it's a good work on their part to pick that up, and they kind of ran with it from there. But I hope you understand, I can't describe exactly what he said.
Well, you mentioned new technology and old-fashioned police work. I guess we got the old-fashioned police work. What's the new technology?
Well, part of it is obviously the forensic work that the crime scene unit did that's contributing to this arrest. I'm not going to go into the specifics of the evidence that we have, but the other part of it is simply the body cameras that we have. They're so much more accessible, and everything gets recorded and it's documented. And it's something, like you said, that Detective Bannis reviewed, and it hit on a note when the victim reiterated the same thing.
Defendant, the high school student, the Niagara Falls High School?
I believe he graduated.
Now, the second sexual assault, you stressed you only charged with this one.
Correct.
But you didn't say it's going to rule out the other.
No, I did not say that at all.
So that part continues.
Exactly.
We chatted about before, you talked a little bit about the phrase and history of that. Especially the second one he has been charged with. How it happened it was dark, but there were people around, it was like the cops party.
Exactly. It's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, can you speak to that a little bit about, the brazenness of the attack? There's what they used to call the Milton Plaza, right? Isn't that?
That's the Pine Plaza. That was the initial incident. The second incident happened down here at
Right.
Portage Road. Yeah.
This is not the Mill Pine down here. Mill Pine's up in Military Road and Pine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Mill Pine Plaza was actually Kitty Corner. I think that was the Mill Pine Plaza.
The old one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
some people call things what they used to call them.
yeah,
What-
I do the same thing. No, to your point, obviously, the fact when you're talking about a stranger sexual assault or rape, if somebody's armed with a gun, and to the point that when the officers arrested him, he had a fully loaded handgun, it certainly elevates the danger to everybody in the public. This is not something that you see very often. And when we first encountered this incident, we reached out to different agencies in Niagara County, and they had not had something similar. That was part of the investigation. So yeah, it raised a lot of red flags and a lot of concerns.
Was this legally registered?
No, he does not have a pistol permit.
Yeah, you just said, I mean, the danger to the public was clear from the first case, so I'm still just confused as to why we didn't know. And the reason that I'm pushing this issue is that if something like this happens again, we just want you to let us know so we can communicate to the public and do our job.
Okay.
As far as the victim, how important is an arrest? Obviously, just for their emotional healing and maybe having some chance of.
Most certainly. I mean, our total priority is for the victims. They've linked, as in any other case, they've linked with victim services to get them the resources. And we're hopeful that by making the arrest, give them some kind of closure and at least make them feel a little safer as with, the rest of the public, obviously. But
How common are sexual assaults where the victim doesn't know the assailant?
that's pretty rare. I know that we had spoken to earlier when we did the first round of interviews. That is something that's statistically pretty rare that it's a stranger encounter that way.
I know you can't tell us what the suspect said in both of those instances, that's the same phrase. But is it that unusual of a phrase that it stood out?
It was unique enough that it registered with the officer, and like I said, once we took that, he noticed that point, then he started looking at other things. Is the description similar? Our descriptions that we put out in the photo array was pretty vague, so it could mean a lot of people. But once they realized that, this person that uttered that phrase was within that scope of the description, we started looking a little further, and everything we looked at kind of led us to believe that he could potentially have been responsible.
But you just mentioned a photo array. Did the victim identify this person?
I didn't mention
I
photo array.
thought you just said photo array.
I don't think I
Oh,
did.
okay, I just
Okay,
was searching, I'm sorry.
okay.
Two things. You may have said, I'm trying to look back to my notes, but did you say when you arrested him?
He was arrested yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday. Did he make a statement?
He was brought to the station, but I can't get into what he may or may not have said.
Well, I didn't ask you what he said, I asked if he may have said.
I can't get into what he may or may not have said.
Just to clarify, the victim identified him through the officer's camera?
No. They didn't watch the camera. It was something that when Detective Bannis spoke to the victim, we re-interviewed it, which is a common technique. The victim added some more information that she hadn't mentioned the first time. He heard that statement that the victim said that the suspect mentioned, and that recalled the video that he had watched, and they started putting two and two together.
I know you already said it, but where was he arrested again?
He was arrested at the 600 block of 24th Street.
Is that his residence?
No,